Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Trekway. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I suck, I know. Um, we're doing our live discussion today, where we actually have a title now that gives us gives us basically free reign to waffle now for the full hour, whatever, and actually get away with it because I do the quick previews on Thursdays, of course. Okay, great. I'm seeing a big improvement in this episode compared to the last ones. I really like this, and again, we won't give them spoilers of scores and stuff, but we can add similar or the same scores, and I really enjoyed this. I take it you did as well.
Yeah, no, it was definitely much above the previous episodes, which was good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that had to do with not just the writing, which I as we go along, I credit them, but I also think Rayner was a big deal, because Rayner's, again, I wish they had they had gotten Rayner way back in season 1, and they could have been so good between Rayner and Saru and her. It would have been but what can we do?
What can you do, indeed?
That's right. But yeah, it was definitely much better.
Yeah, I think Rayner is
carry this on for the rest of the season.
Rayner so far is the VIP of the season so far for me. The guy is doing the job very, very well, and his character development as well is coming along nicely. We of course discuss him at some points in this as well. So we'll kick it off by all means. My chat is not working too good. Typical, man. This is what happens when you use plugins. So if I don't see comments, then I apologise. Hopefully it does come up. If Gray sees any chat comments, you can let me know. You do YouTube, and I'll do Twitch. That's probably a good idea, mate.
Yeah. Did you see my hi?
I didn't know because I've just turned it on. Oh. But anyway, with further ado, so yeah, we kick off Discovery Season 5, Episode 5 review. It's titled Mirrors, and you'll see why. It took me a hot moment to figure out why, but Book is convinced at the start, and I know Gray is not a massive fan of Booker, but I like him.
No, I like Booker. I just thought some of the things that he was doing writing wise was kind of questionable, but
really,
it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, the character himself I like.
Fair enough. I stand corrected. He's still convinced though he can get through to Moll because he knows her, as we know from the previous 2 episodes prior, where he found out that she was the daughter of his mentor on Quajon before it went kaplooey. And we get a bit of character development in that going through this episode as well, which is pretty cool. And conveniently enough,
Luke, you are my father thing or something.
No, what? Yeah, see, that's...
Or Moll, I am your cousin.
We don't want to be crossing the franchises, certainly not. Definitely don't want to be doing that. But yeah, so we do get some, let's say, character development on that as we go through. Discovery does catch up and does find out where Moll and L'ak are hiding this time. And the interesting thing here, I thought this was pretty cool, Gray, and they don't fully explain it, and I don't even care that they don't fully explain it, because it does make sense, kinda. They get to the coordinates of where they think they are, and they can't see anything. So they do what any good... I mean, they are a science ship, aren't they, technically? They do what any good science ship does, and thoroughly search to find out what's going on. And they find out that there's a wormhole, a hidden wormhole. They just had to calibrate their sensors differently. Did you... I don't think we've ever seen that in Star Trek, Gray. A hidden wormhole.
No, I don't think we've seen a hidden wormhole, but I like the explanation. It's kind of like the satellites that are circling the Earth now that search out in the heavens in different light wavelengths. So what you might see in the naked eye is not necessarily what you're going to see in the infrared, which is not necessarily what you're going to see in the gamma radiation waves, which is not necessarily what you're going to see in the et cetera, et cetera.
True.
So I think they took that from real life, which is what Trek was always good at. So they just kind of recalibrated on what you couldn't see per se, and then there it was.
It's the same with a black hole, though. I mean, technically, you can't actually see the black hole. You just see the effects that the black hole has on its surroundings. So it's maybe something like that. If it was some kind of the bad guys that turned out to be good guys at the end of season 4, that like unique life form, that if they had, you'd think if it was something that was not natural, that a species would have to have some amount of power to be able to hide something like that. But no, I think it's natural. That's the gist I was getting anyway. So they do find a wormhole, and it looks a bit like at the start the Bajoran wormhole. I think they've got their wormhole CGI down to a T. Now remember, at points the Bajoran wormhole from Deep Space Nine would open and close a lot, and they had to try and stabilize it. And we've seen wormholes many times in Star Trek. I think the most times we've seen it is in Voyager, because it was a lovely story plot for them to go home, and every time Voyager would find a wormhole, it would be sod's law. It'd be like, it's too small, or it keeps opening and closing, or something's wrong with it, it's not what it seems. So when I see a wormhole now, I don't trust it, Gray. Don't trust it, mate. It's too good to be true.
The only thing that is kind of funny is when they talk about size. They did it here too. Generally
matters.
speaking, what wormholes have been, well, when in our world anyway, that the wormholes they discovered have always been super large.
Yeah.
So to have a wormhole that small, I'm not saying it's not possible, but so you can stretch the limits. That's fine. But in our daily life, we've never seen one that small. I mean, that's awfully small. You can't even fit a starship through.
What the one in this episode? Yeah.
The one in this episode, yeah.
Well, it could easily fit a shuttlecraft through it.
Right. So think about that. A shuttlecraft can fit through it. That's like a really small black hole. I mean, really small.
Wormhole,
excuse me. So look
is it small though? I think no. If it fits a shuttle through it, a shuttlecraft is not small. A shuttlecraft's way bigger than a car. So I don't know. I think it's a decent size.
I just wonder whether wormholes. It doesn't matter. It's just a side note. I just wonder whether wormholes could actually ever be that small. But then again, you hear stories like what was it? The cold fusion that's happened now twice. They've proven that they can do it. And essentially what they're creating is a miniature star. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So when you think about it that way, it's kind of like, well, okay, that means that star is like the size of an atom, but it's technically they made a star. So,
True.
Anything's possible.
You were talking about wormholes being like you've never seen one that small. Now I'm only talking Star Trek, not necessarily in real life, but because no one saw a wormhole yet. But in Star Trek, the smallest one was in Voyager, and that was one of the first times they spoke back home. Remember, it's like we can't get anyone through, but we could send a signal through, and that's what they do, and it conveniently opens up in the Alpha Quadrant. Of course it does. Always does. Of course. But yeah, I've always found wormholes fascinating in Star Trek, to be honest with you, man. I really have. And this was the same in this one. It looked really cool. So yeah, they find this wormhole. As Gray alluded to, we can't fit Discovery through. Not a chance. To get a wormhole that big is... to begin with, Gray, I thought actually, here we go. A starship can't get through yet again. I would like to see Discovery go through. But as we've touched on before, that how often have we seen a wormhole that big, to be fair, in Star Trek? So not too often. So it makes maybe sense that, no, we can't take Discovery through. Discovery will be too OP anyway, so... taking a shuttlecraft through makes a lot more sense, and that's what they're going to do. They're literally going to take one of the shuttlecrafts through. Burnham has decided she's going, and she's taking Book with her, but Rayner has other ideas, Gray. You want to tell the people what Rayner was saying? Do you agree with what Rayner was doing? Was he following the book? Was he not?
I think as a proper number one, he basically took Burnham aside as captain and said, I think this is too risky. I should go and you stay here. And this is a classic thing that's happened in several Star Trek episodes, so they always do that, and that makes sense. Yeah. But generally speaking, it's usually the captain that wins that argument. So she was saying, like, no, I really need you here, so I'm going. Like, well, okay, end of story. Right there. So that was kind of cool. But he did what he was supposed to do, which is good. So all good.
Yeah, because Burnham Burnham often volunteers herself for these missions, forgetting she's captain, and we don't seem to follow the rule book anymore. Yes, this is the 32nd century, but surely there's some rules you still follow, and last I checked, that rule hadn't been removed, so I don't know, call me facetious.
Well, for Star Trek, that particular rule is out the window since this TOS started. There's always that same argument, and 97% of the time, the captain goes anyway. So
yeah.
It's like, Kirk, you shouldn't be going down there. Nah, I'll be going.
It's your main rule, but no one ever bloody follows it. So, it makes sense to have it. But, yeah.
I heard somebody one time postulate. They said they're going like, yeah, but how many missions could a starship go on in 5 years? So it kind of made a little sense because they're going like, let's say they went on, I don't know, 250 missions or whatever in 5 years, but the captain went down only 5 times. Well, those are the 5 times you saw the episode. So there was lots of other times where he never went down. So when you start looking at it like that, okay, that might be a fair excuse.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. But I mean, they've got to have the ruling, so fair's fair.
Yeah.
Great. We've seen it more than once, but I've not actually fully realised how cool the 32nd century shuttlecrafts look. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan?
Oh no, I like them. They've come a long way since the old Galileo boxy looking things from TOS.
They looked they looked as if it wasn't that part of that era, if that makes sense. It looks like they were way too old for the future, so they look more accurate to the 32nd century now, maybe.
Yeah.
I think those shuttlecrafts look cool outside and in. The inside looks a bit too futuristic for my liking. Like, I mean, I'm just used to the control panels being the touch L cars. I miss the L cars, man. The L cars is just, I mean, look, I've got it in my background here. It's just cool. It's cool. And
I have it on my screensaver now. They're always cool.
He does. He's got screensaver people that he's loving it to bits. It's the Enterprise E. It's just an L cars.
It's geeky
menu, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty. Just I told him that no one uses screensavers anymore.
I don't until I saw this one.
No, he does.
Hey, look, it was a big Star Trek fan. He decided he was going to make it, and he made it so that it could be run independently on separate monitors. Timing is different between the two monitors, so when you look at it, you feel like you're at the station. You're at the engineering station or the science station. I'm just like, whoa, this is pretty cool. The only thing that would have been better than what I was seeing is to have like tactile buttons to push or something, like.
Oh God, I'm sure you can get something like that somewhere, man. That must be possible, surely to God.
I'll just get a Stream Deck this long and just put it like right here.
It's an expensive
but
hobby,
anyway,
that.
As we digress. Yeah, it would be.
So yeah, those shuttlecrafts look pretty cool. Now, Burnham and Book do make it through the wormhole, but their timing has got to be bang on because this thing is open and closing, and there's no telling what it would actually do when it hits. If it hits the shuttlecraft in half, we actually find out shortly after what it potentially can do, to be fair, but their timing is spot on. They get through, and then, Raynor is doing his commander thing, telling everyone to keep their eyes peeled and be on the ball, and he says, let's go to yellow alert. And I thought that was overkill. Gray thinks it's to keep everyone on their toes, and he's right, but then surely to God you'd be a yellow alert anytime there's any chance of squeaky bum time. Surely. That makes sense to me. Yellow alert is raising your shields. Yeah? So, is that what you thought, just to keep everyone on their toes? I thought it was overkill, no?
I don't know if shields are up on yellow alert. I think it goes up on red.
Yes. I'm pretty convinced, yeah. I mean, God, prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure shields go up for yellow alert. But not all the weapon systems and whatnot are activated. It's just a defensive position.
I'm thinking that in this particular instance or the episode, I think Raynor is doing it as like a captain's discretion kind of thing. He just felt that he needed to keep everybody really tuned because they don't know what's going on exactly. So throwing out a yellow alert, I think, was just his discretion.
Yeah. I mean, he is the type of he'll run the ship well. As we know, he's not so great with the crew, and he's getting better though. But in terms of actually the role and commanding, captaining the ship, he is excellent at that. And that was another thing I forgot about Gray when he was talking to Burnham beforehand, right? Having the little private chat in the ready room. He was trying to convince her, obviously, to stay, but there was another part to that. There was another element to that where Burnham says, "What's this really about?" And she says, "Is it because you're going to be taking the hot seat? You're going to be taking the captain's chair?" And he kind of doesn't necessarily agree or disagree with that, but he says, "Yeah," kind of alludes to that, and she's like, "Listen, you'll be fine in the hot seat." And this is him trying to prove his point, because this is him properly in the hot seat for the first time since being given the sack. I'm sure you don't get sacked in Starfleet, but you know what I mean. So yeah, they're in this wormhole now, and it does look a little bit Bajoran wormhole-esque. Here he goes. There, well done. Where's the T-shirt, Gray?
Well, sometimes T-shirts, sometimes
It's
not.
black, yeah. So for those for listening to the podcast, he's holding up the Trekway mug. I'm not talking about this thing up here. I'm talking about the cup. He's holding that up there, and he doesn't have the T-shirt on, but that's fine. That's fine. And if you're listening on audio,
I put a few drops of Romulan ale in my coffee. Real good.
You did. Oh, I've got the real stuff. Yeah, I'm totally off topic now. So yeah, we into the wormhole, and we see it's like, say, Bajoran wormhole-esque. It's pretty cool to look at. We see what happens on one side of the shuttlecraft. They're looking out, and they see, I think it's Burnham looking out, and they see what's left of Moll and L'ak's ship. It's been cut in half. This thing's been sliced in half.
Chunks of it around, yeah.
It's bashed up. There's other debris as well, but that's what they said. All right, we know what happened there. And then Book's like looking out, or it might be the other way around. Book looks out the other porthole, and he sees, oh wow, like one's transfixed in one side of the shuttle, one's transfixed in the other. And I'm sorry, the right hand wins, because they look out and you see the Enterprise, the ISS Enterprise. Now, we saw this in teaser trailers before, didn't we, Gray? But some people seem to think it was the USS Defiant, the OG from TOS. Right. But it wasn't. It was the ISS Enterprise, which was very, very cool. It clearly been sitting there a long time because of the damage. And we knew it would be a long time because, remember what the Guardian of Forever said. I need to say it in that. See, if I was clued up in tech and that more so than I am, I could be on the ball so I could press a button so my voice would just sound like him with a big, deep, echoey voice, I am the Guardian of Forever. And then...
We'll have to work on that one.
We were working on it. And he said, when he was sending Philippa Georgiou back, he said that, if you recall, this will be one of the last times we can do it because the universes between the two are drifting further and further apart, so it won't actually be possible to cross from the mirror universe to the prime universe. So it must have been sitting there for hundreds of years, potentially. It could have been in worse nick, actually, considering how long it's been sitting there. You were a massive fan of that scene as well, Gray. You're mentioning here. Oh, yeah. You've got a little history note you're going to educate the people on.
Yeah, if people didn't know the backstory a little bit on ISS Enterprise and the whole mirror universe, actually started in the original series back in the late 60s. And basically, it was season 2, episode 4, and it was called Mirror Mirror. And the ISS Enterprise was commanded by the evil, if you want to call it that, Captain James Kirk, who assassinated Captain Pike. And what happened was it was a transporter accident, and the Prime Universe's Kirk, Uhura, McCoy, and Scotty ended up switching with their counterparts to the Mirror Universe, and their counterparts in the Mirror Universe, of course, went over to the Prime Universe. And so everything was getting all messed up because they didn't know what was going on. And Kirk and crew from Prime had to sit there and quickly figure out what was going on and act like the people from that universe as soon as they got a grasp of what was happening. And this is one of the only times where people always remember that when Kirk meets the Spock of the Mirror Universe, Spock's got this literally good-looking goatee across.
Oh, yeah. How good was that?
and he was just like looking cool with this goatee, man. Everybody's going like, you know. So as it went on and so forth of the episode, if you didn't see it, I'd go back and see it. It's streaming on Paramount Plus, and you can probably see it other places. But when Prime Kirk actually left and they figured everything out and they were going back to their universe, he basically left an idea in their mirror Spock's mind to basically take control of the Terran Empire, put some reforms in, because if they don't, inevitably it's going to be destroyed. And that's kind of where they left it. The thing that was even more cool about this, by using the ISS Enterprise, is that they took the set of Strange New Worlds and put the Discovery crew on it to show that this was the mirror real, Enterprise, etc. And that made it more real to us watching it. So that's a little bit of the history and a little bit of interesting stuff when they were filming it. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree, man. Thank you for the history lesson. That I do remember that episode from TOS. I thought they'd done an amazing job. It was a great concept. The Spock goatee is legendary, man. I mean, I love the mirror episodes. I really do.
Nimoy had a lot of fun on that one, being able to have that goatee going.
No wonder. I mean, he was still playing a Vulcan, so he was still pretty...
Yeah.
He wasn't getting to, one of those episodes where he goes a little bit nuts. He wasn't quite like that, because he was still the Vulcan, but he was able to express himself in a more violent, kind of hardcore kind of way, because that's what the mirror universe is all about.
He was logically ruthless, which made it even weirder.
Logically ruthless.
Right. He was making it sound as if, well, this is how it goes and this is how it's done, and making it sound like it was everything was fine, with it. But so I thought that was a really good job by Nimoy to carry that off, because it could have been different.
It could have been. You're right. I love the mirror episodes. Star Trek Enterprise done it as well. I love that because that showed you the USS Defiant, and their ship was absolutely brilliant as well. So keep giving this mirror
I'm
episodes.
More, just as a side note, I'm more interested in seeing the way they handle the mirror episodes as opposed to the time travel, which they've way overdone. And not just in Star Trek, but in other science fiction things, that the whole time travel thing is just overdone, period. But the whole thing about the mirror universe was cool, and when it was introduced way back then, it gives you something different without really time traveling. So to me, it's easier to accept that, as opposed to being able to sit there and accept that you're time traveling every other week, and stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking
that's just me. I mean,
I agree with you, Gray. I think we're on the same wavelength with that point. The time traveling thing has been done quite a lot, but the mirror universe isn't time traveling. It's a little bit. It's its own unique little thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they brought in the drifting apart thing, because that's a good way to go, right, we'll have one last good story with it, and then we won't be able to use it again. And they're not using it in the now. This is a remnant that's crossed over, so it's sneaky how they done it. I like that. So there is. So back in the Discovery, Rayner is doing the captainy thing, and they lose communications with the shuttlecraft. Not surprising. I don't know many ships that could communicate with a wormhole that's opening and closing all the time. Now, he asked the crew to basically brainstorm ideas to try and get comms back open with the shuttlecraft, and there's basically, he's got a little kind of bribe for them if they can find a way to do it. But he mentions a little throwaway comment, which I add random things like this into notes sometimes, guys, right? I'll take main bullet points down of how the episode went, but then I'll put random things down. And so will Gray as well, that we found interesting or we hated, that we just want to talk about. And obviously, as we found out, because we thought Rayner was Romulan for a while, just with like deformed ears. But no, he's not. He's a Kelleran. And apparently Kelleran boils their cakes, because that's what he said. He actually says, boil your cake. I don't, what? I said, he says, don't knock it until you try it. So what?
He was using like a kind of like a colloquialism that we're used to hearing, but sticking in this thing about boiling the cakes. And all of a sudden, like, boiling the cakes. Who the hell boils a cake?
Don't knock it till you try it. Telling
Yeah,
you.
I guess.
Gray
Now I'm gonna have
mentions
to go
here.
try it.
Gray's mentioned here. It must bring out the flavour. Oh God.
Yeah.
Or take it away.
Or take it away. Yeah, that's completely.
So yeah, like, it's nice to see Enterprise again, of course, even if it's the ISS. From the inside and the outside, and Gray alluded to the fact that they're using the same set from Strange New Worlds, which makes sense. Like, I know they need to save money and building brand new sets. This is why Picard Season 3 was so bloody expensive, because they had to bring back these sets. I mean, trying to do the Bridge of the Enterprise D again was really expensive for a one-off, and then the extra CGI shots. So I don't mind if you use the same sets again, but where applicable, change it up enough so that it's not blatantly bloody obvious. But this is supposed to be the exact same with minor changes throughout the logo and whatnot, so that's fine. A little sweet scene. I say something positive, so does Gray, but he always has to add that negative part in after always, and that's Burnham's sitting at the console, and she looks over to Book, and Book's standing at the exact same position where her brother Spock would be standing, so it's a bit of a deja vu for her, and it's kind of sweet. But then what does Gray say? Yes, nice touch, except this should have never been. It should have never been, Gray, but it is, so we just need to deal with it, man.
I can't help it.
God.
I still enjoyed it, but I couldn't help it because it's not real to me. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
I know they try to fix it. They try to fix it. To be fair, I think if Spock in the past or the Strange New Worlds is no longer ever allowed to discuss it, I know Burnham can discuss it, but I don't think she should. To be fair, and that would keep you happy. You know, let's leave it in the past.
Okay.
Now, I didn't fully get this bit, but maybe I'm just being a dum-dum. No comments, please. And that's that Burnham takes something from her little comm badge. I don't know if you call it a comm badge now. I just call it ChatGPT version 100, because this little device, it does everything. It transports you, it does a holopad, it does everything. She takes something out of it, Great. It almost looks just like a little fuse or something. Obviously, it's not a fuse. And puts it into a locket she has of her and Philippa Georgiou. Now, I never even knew she had the locket, but it makes sense she's got the locket because she loved Philippa Georgiou Prime Universe before she was killed indirectly because of Burnham. Thanks, Burnham. But then she grew to love also Georgiou of the Mirror Universe because they both got to love each other and trust each other. So, did you know she had the locket? I had no clue.
I thought, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I have to go back and look at the scene. But I think she picked the locket up from the ISS Enterprise. She didn't have it with her.
Did you see
Literally
that?
picked it up. Yeah, she picked it up off the whatever desk it was.
That makes sense.
And noticed what it was, and then kept it. Now, what that little black thing is, she stuck in it. I wasn't sure at the time, like what that was all about.
Why would there be a locket of Burnham and Georgiou on the ISS Enterprise though?
Well, because that's where she was. I mean, at one point, from what I understand, but I don't know.
Anyway,
I have to go back and look at it again.
Nitpicking, but we're allowed to do that in the live discussion. That's the whole point. But yeah, she put something in there which I never fully got. It must be linked to the clue somehow. I should probably watch the episode a second time to be honest. You're going through. But yeah, we have no clue, but it's all good. Now, here we go. This is what I've been asking for a long bloody time. We discussed the last episode, maybe 2, about seeing more of the Breen, Gray, and we literally do this time. I loved the Breen when we saw it. Did you like, what's your thoughts on the Breen, like from Deep Space Nine, when they were brought into the war? Are you a fan? Or you thought it was a crappy thing to bring them in? What are you thinking?
No, I was always a fan of the Breen coming in. The only thing I guess I was confused about when the Breen was coming in is because we never really knew much about them. You just had to kind of take for granted that they're
mysterious,
this ruthless race. And that's okay. But I always thought that I wish they would have explained a little more about the Breen, or maybe that we saw a little bit more than we did. But it's okay. And bringing them in here, I think, was a great, really good idea. So we actually got to see something different.
Very cool. Yeah, listen, we have no problem with the writers using old or previous current species as long as they do them well. And because the Breen hardly had anything on them, it was good to see them coming back. That's why I'm a fan to see the progenitors coming back, because we saw them so briefly. I know they look like changelings grey, but yeah, it is what it is. But we do see more of the Breen this time. Now, I was confused because, and they don't fully explain this, Gray. They are walking refrigerators, right? That's what those suits are for, right? They're big fridges, and we've never seen them. In fact, you don't even hear them when they've got that. When they talk to each other, it just sounds like a computer gobbledygook garbage, and it doesn't make sense.
The helmet is on so tight.
Yep.
You can't really hear them, so they have to speak a different way.
So they speak differently, but it was never translated into English in Deep Space Nine. I don't think it was just the people listening to the Breen could understand what they were saying. So that's fine. But they actually speak in English through this. They actually at point say switch to the human's native tongue so they can understand. So we do hear what they're saying through the computer type voice that they've got, but the whole time they're supposed to be in suits because they come from a really cold planet and they have to be in the suits all the time. So when you see L'ak later on, he not only looks different, but he's not in any part of the suit, Gray. You would think the helmet is off, but he would have the rest of the suit to keep the body cold, right? So they explain what goes on with the head, which we'll discuss in a moment, but they don't discuss the rest of it. Is that like a nitpick? Is that a small plot hole? What do you think?
I wasn't sure what was going on either. I thought I heard through the course of the episode they were saying something, or I did when I was doing a little research on it, that they can survive without the suit, but it's uncomfortable. So in order to be able to function at 100%, so to speak, they should be in the cold suit. But when they're not in the cold suit, then apparently they're not at their best, at their 100%.
That's right.
And that's about the best of an explanation I was able to figure out or find.
That's right.
I do think still that it's not enough. I mean, we should still know a little more about what that's all about. Because, when you saw them take the helmet off, boy, did they look like they were, starting to fall out or something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
do you remember
it was cool looking, but it was just like their skin was kind of it looked like a green gel pack that you put in the freezer.
Do you not remember the first episode? They're in a desert, or was that the second episode? They're in a desert, and he doesn't seem to. He shrugs it off for the most part. I'm like, really? And listen, I know it's a nitpick, but that's the whole point of like having longer in an episode like this.
No, I think you're onto it, because I think it's a lot more than a nitpick. Something about that just isn't making sense.
That he has to be in his suit, or at least they allude to the fact that he can only be so long out of his suit, because in Deep Space Nine they say they have to wear those suits for that reason. So yeah, I'm going to nitpick, but when we do see we do get to that in a moment, what they really look like, to be fair. But no, listen, that's cool that we're getting more backstory in the Breen, because I generally love them. I should really hate them because they destroyed my baby, the Defiant. How dare they? But their energy dampening weapons are really cool, and it's good to see they're still about the 32nd century. Now, through this, Gray, we're doing a little bit of back and forth, so we're going back to the past to see what was happening between L'ak and Moll, their relationship and how it began. And it turns out L'ak is the cousin of Breen royalty, which is kind of cool. And he's maybe wanting to get revenge or won over on his uncle, because his uncle basically demoted him to look like their cargo bay or whatever. And Moll, this whole time, she's obviously a courier. She's she's been ripping him off, and there's a little fight between the two. And Moll's all over L'ak, and she's got she's got the upper hand on him, and she recognises that he's from royalty, and it starts the whole It's kind of the flirting thing, where you lock me up, you put handcuffs on me, and I'll get out of them, and we'll play a bit of touchy feely and fight a little bit, but they go to and fro quite a lot throughout this episode of how they build up the relationship, which is pretty interesting because more Breens, I'll take more Breen any day of the week. And then we get, we're back on the ISS Discovery, and maybe it's always going to be nitpicks, isn't it? They're looking for, they're saying to themselves, Burnham and Booker, that those two, Moll and L'ak, have to be on the Enterprise somewhere. Oh, how are we going to find them? Let's just use the internal sensors. Oh, there they are. They're in sickbay. That was too easy. That was too easy. Come on. I mean, it's an epic.
I was wondering whether maybe that was a setup, because when they got to sickbay, as we know in the story, you started seeing holograph projections of them, and only one of them was the real two, and the rest of them were all copies. So maybe they set it up because they knew they were going to look for him, and they were ready for it. So in that way, I could accept that. That makes sense.
Yeah. At the time, initially, you don't know that until like the next scene. Yeah, because they get down there and they're Burnham and Booker on either side of sickbay's door, and they see like half a dozen versions of L'ak, and they're like, "What? This can't all be real." But they see the little holographic projector in the corner, so it's like, lay down, cover and fire. Let's take this thing out, and they go in all guns blazing. A bit of a shootout between the two parties, and then what causes the force fields to come down? Great. I think it was just that. I think it was when they're firing in the room set something off. If I'm right in saying, because
I think it was a console got zapped or something, and then all of a sudden,
that's it.
Crap started happening, and
you're
of
right.
course they had to go, great. We have to figure this out. Quick.
Yeah, and it was convenient.
So, of course, because it's one of each party as opposed to,
Yeah, so Burnham and L'ak get stuck, which leaves Moll in sickbay, and Moll and Book are in opposing doors, and they actually have to figure out a way to get them out. So it's like a temporary truce between Moll and Book, but not a temporary truce between Burnham and L'ak in sickbay. They've still got their phasers locked on each other, and even later on when they're almost exhausted sitting there, they've still got their guns locked in each other, which I found amusing. So yeah, little shootout there, but they have to work out their differences. And to be fair, Moll and, I didn't have this noted down, but Moll and Book do the whole talking thing, and oh yeah, I remember your daddy, and I hate my daddy, and all that kind of thing. I'm not going to trust you, blah, blah, blah. They're always going to do that, to be fair. I hope it's a decent angle, this story. I hope it ends decently and not just a crap thing of Book talking about someone that he knew in the past. But the bit you...
Well, I mean, technically they had the same father, sort of.
Kind of.
So each one of them are...
No, it wasn't. That was his... what did they call that?
It was mentor.
Mentor, yeah. Kinda.
It was Book's mentor and the other one's father, but they both knew him really, really well, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of like they're both having the daddy / mentor issues. so they're kind of talking it out, which is okay. I mean, the way they were... It could have been handled worse. I mean, I thought it was handled pretty good, actually. It was making sense. It wasn't getting too over melodramatic and stuff. And so I had to give him credit there. It was good enough and believable enough that you started to care about it, as opposed to like, who cares?
Credit where credit's due. Credit, yeah. It's like I say, as long as it turns out to be a decent angle, I'm not really caring too much in the end. Now the bit you touched on before, Gray, we do finally see, like, this is back in the past again, we finally do see L'ak and what his face really looks like. Now, this bit was cool because Moll is convincing him for ages, like, come on, I want to see what you look like, and he says, oh, next time. She said, well, you said that last time, come on, you should trust me. And he's, right, okay. And he kind of undoes he doesn't take the helmet off like Power Ranger style and just reveals himself. That would have been cool. But no, it's a little device, it's very CGI'd up, and it kind of opens in pieces, and you see his face, and it's almost like he's really cold in that suit to the ambient temperature not being as cold. Now, they must have not been on a planet Breen, if that's what their homeworld is called, because they don't need the suits there. They must have literally been up in space or somewhere else. And if they're in space, he must have literally been at an impartial facility, because even if it's a Breen's facility in space, they're probably going to have the temperature that suits them, unless, of course, Moll is the courier. They have to make the temperature habitable for her. So, I mean, we're nitpicking, but the suit opens and the ambient temperature is obviously warmer, and you see like a little puff of cold air, and the guy looks a bit unsure of everything. A bit Gray said, it's like translucent a little bit. It's like he's had far too many student drinks. You know those concoctions that they have and they mix everything together and it glows in the dark? He looks like he's been on the student alcohol all night. The guy is like a big walking gel pack, but it was cool, man. It was really, pun not intended.
It was almost like the gel pack with a bunch of glitter put inside it. So when the light was shining through, it's like. Woo-doo.
That's fair. That's accurate. Yeah.
That's the costume I want for Halloween, right there.
No, you're going dressed for Halloween for one of the bad guys from Enshrouded. Remember?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, you need to. We'll talk about the gaming podcast after.
Yeah.
But yeah. He looked really, really cool, and that was a few quid, a few bucks on CGI for that scene, I'd imagine, Gray.
Yeah, Either that, they just pumped a couple of things underneath their skin.
Yeah, there's no amount of makeup prosthetics is going to make you look like that. You definitely, and if you do look like that naturally, you probably should put a will in right now and say goodbye to your loved ones.
Some cream or something for your face.
Cream's not going to fix that, mate. Cream's not going to fix that. But no, he looks really, really smart and cool. But again, even at this stage, they don't explain what's going on. Now, the one thing they do explain is they can, if they concentrate, and I'm skipping ahead, I don't care, if they concentrate, kind of a bit like the changelings, a little bit, they can hold a different appearance. So when you see L'ak most of the time, he looks more like a Klingon from early Discovery without the makeup and stuff on. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
He looks more
a little
solid,
more humanoidish. Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe if you're outside the suit for long enough, he changes his appearance naturally because he has to adapt to his surroundings. A little simple explanation of he can be out his suit for so many days or something. It's fine. You can handle it to a certain point, but they didn't put that in, and he doesn't seem flustered either at all, Gray, throughout the whole season. Of even in the desert, he was like, "Fine, I'm all cool. I'm going to sit here with a drink and enjoy the sunshine." Like nothing weird. Anyway, so that was pretty smart. Some CGI money spent there. That's why they didn't have any money for any pew-pew battles with starships. That's fine. I don't mind that.
They kept it to the pew-pew phasers.
They did, but that's pretty easy to do, isn't it? That's like starship pew-pew is expensive stuff. That's the stuff.
You notice the Breen had the same kind of programmable matter thing because the guy had nothing in his hand. And then all of a sudden, he has a Breen
didn't
rifle.
notice that. No, that's a good shout. Yeah. That's common tech now, isn't it?
They're doing that a lot.
It's common tech. It makes sense. It's probably like every species has warp drive. Maybe not the exact same version of it, but they all have the similar kind of technology. So that makes sense. You, Gray, you liked the backstory of these characters in general. I think that's maybe why you gave it a higher score, because you felt more involved and invested in the characters this time as opposed to other Discovery episodes.
Yeah, definitely. When you can watch an episode, doesn't matter what it is, and you actually start, getting the type of feelings about it, like the good feelings, the bad feelings, the emotional feelings, or whatever, then the writers have done their job. And I don't always get that much in other episodes of Discovery. Depends. I might get it at moments.
Yeah.
But I don't really get a whole effect. But this is the first time where I felt like I was getting the whole effect through almost the whole episode, which is good. If they could just stick with that kind of writing, that going forward, I hope it'll be great, or at least it'll be a lot better.
Yeah, that scored a lot higher for us, and we're kind of surprised because a lot of Discovery episodes were like 6 or 7 out of 10. So, yeah, no, they've done a good job. We had to have backstory for these two key characters. To be fair, I don't get a funny feeling they're not going to be the true bad guys by the end of this. Really, to be fair, there'll be more to it than meets the eye, as there usually is. Now, Moll and Book are on the bridge of the Enterprise again. Moll is impatient with trying to break the firewall of such an old ship. And I'm thinking, listen, between those two, they can't beat the ship's security that's that old. I'm like, come on, guys, you're better than that. This ship is 1,000 years old or something, 900 years old. Like, come on.
Well, that's because they didn't beam Tilly over there, who knows everything.
She does. She does. And she learned all that stuff just to piss you off.
All that stuff in just a season or two. It was amazing.
She learned it all just to piss you off. She crammed it all in just to piss you off. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Convinced. So, because of her being impatient, she decides to literally just grab stuff from under the console and send a power surge through the Enterprise, which backfires massively. Explosions going off everywhere. The Enterprise is now heading towards the aperture of the wormhole, which, this thing goes chewy, munchy when anything gets caught in it. And they only have... Oh, yeah, and the shuttlecraft is gone as well. Conveniently enough, it gets... Yeah. I mean, I know they had to do that, Gray, but, like, come on. I expect that thing to have a better grip of the ISS Enterprise than, say, the ISS up in space is at the moment. That grip should be ironclad. It shouldn't be going anywhere, but it's gone. You see it flying off in the distance, whatever. I only have 8 minutes left.
What would have been cooler? They didn't really show it. I don't think, because they should have shown it just colliding with it. And that would have made more sense.
Colliding with what? Sorry.
Well, when the ISS was starting to do the explosions, it was also veering like this. So they should have just shown it knocked it. It would only took a second. They should have just shown it knocking the shuttle out of the way and literally destroying it.
But how could they, if they were both joined together? They couldn't come together because they're already together.
Yeah, but an explosion could easily unhook the ships.
True.
Or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I mean, so that would have been a cool scene to see. You see it separate, and then the ship just smashes right into it on its way to, whatever. Yeah. I guess they probably assumed what they thought I was assuming, but it would have been nice to have seen it. But well.
Yeah. Oh well, the shuttle's gone. Only 8 minutes left to live. The typical. It's always exact times, man. They know exactly how long it is until they die. It's pretty cool. 8 minutes left.
Sound like a lot. Most of the time, it's like we have only 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 or 5 minutes
or
max.
45 seconds.
It's like 8 minutes. Yeah, and even when they talk about only 3 minutes left, it seems like half an hour. They fit so much into the 3 minutes.
It's classic television. Like, it's just like 3 minutes, and 3 minutes later, we still got 1 minute.
It's like, you run out of time, man. You guys don't have stopwatches in the future. But yeah, as Gray mentions, it is a good build-up. Does make sense of how the story is going to go in the end. More flashback scenes. In fact, no, I'm jumping the gun. I apologise. Now, I think we touched on it briefly before, so I'll just quickly go over it. But there is more of an explanation of it, as we touched on before, how the Breen can hold different faces for different lengths of time, but we don't get proper explanations as to why. Maybe we will later on. I don't think we will, Gray. I think we missed the boat on that one. And then, of course, we get the flashback scene of how they really come together, Moll and L'ak as a couple. There is a situation that confronts L'ak where they're hiding behind a cloak. Did you notice that? Like doing their kissy, touchy thing, Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, the guards come towards them, and it's including in the middle of these guards is L'ak's uncle. And you see them just walk towards where this cloaking field would be, right? But I thought he was going to stand like close to it and be like, "Where's my nephew?" But no, he just presses a button as if he knows where it is. I was like, "This is a really shit cloak." if he knows where it is, and he just turns it off, like what?
Well, again, I think it could have been a little more explanation. Like I'm gonna assume that the uncle actually detected him through the cloak, and figured out he was there somewhere. So
we shouldn't have to
it
assume
would have
all
been nice
the
to
time,
have
though.
a little more of a
Yeah.
I can almost let that one slide because I can, I guess, but still, yeah,
I can let it slide too.
Different.
But we're allowed to nitpick, mate. That's the whole point.
No.
So yeah, he's confronted with a situation. The guards literally grab Moll, and the uncle says, "You've got a decision to make. You've got to kill her basically," and hands him like a pulse rifle, whatever. And he kind of thinks about it for a minute, and then as we knew what would happen, it was pretty obvious. He literally shoots both of the guards really quickly. He doesn't off his uncle. He shoots his uncle in the shoulder, and Moll's like, "Well, why didn't you kill him?" And he's like, "Well, this man brought me up. It's fair play. I can't kill him, but I'm going to take him out of the game. That's fine. I can get down with that." And they disappear, and it's a bit like Thelma and Louise now, just riding off into the sunset. Probably the only chick flick that I actually like, to be fair, my whole time. Now they have a cunning plan, which I don't fully understand, but I thought it was cool all the less. Discovery has a plan to hold the wormhole open and make it bigger when they see a tractor beam come through, the ISS Enterprise's tractor beam. Now, great, it must come through on a certain frequency or something like that, because they pick up, it was like 343 or some random kind of number like that Rayner goes, aha, it was something to do with his culture. It must have been a bit of literature or something that this number relates to something else, and that tells him, oh God, we need to open, not only keep this opened, but make it bigger as well. Did you like that angle? Did you like that story? Were you confused of what was happening?
Well, I knew that she was giving him some kind of code that he would know. We didn't get the explanation until later when we were told exactly what it was. So it didn't bother me. I mean, as long as there was a good explanation later, which there was. If there wasn't a good explanation later, I would have went, oh, that's not making sense.
Yeah,
but there was, and we're getting to that. So he immediately figured it out and knew that she was coming back with something bigger.
You can tell the people the reason that you wrote down.
Well, what it was is later on when they talked, Burnham and Rayner, Burnham had done her history on his race and stuff, and so she was referring to a famous Kelleran story called the Ballad of Kroll, and so she delivered a line or two from that story, and Rayner knew exactly what she was talking about when he correlated. So that's what the whole thing was, and everybody else crossing the bridge is going like, right?
Yeah, like what, why? Was confused. Yeah, it was confusing.
Right, just do this,
It was a.
But I think the next thing though that you and I were talking about was pretty funny, where he's sitting there offering him a drink if they could figure out how to make the hole larger.
Yeah,
that was funny.
It's a morale booster and a half. There is a cask of Kelleran citrus mash. There must be booze from his home world for whoever thinks of a way to execute the plan. And oh boy, those guys, the bridge crew were like that. He's literally he's going to give them a cast all around. I think that was part of the deal because they figure it out. It was someone comes up with the idea to replace the fuel of photon torpedoes. Again, photon torpedoes in the 32nd century. I know it's an old ship, but come on, replace it. And we Green and I've touched on this before.
It's a hybrid. It's an old new ship.
We get it. Like it takes a lot of energy and resource and time to make quantum torpedoes. They're little mini black holes. I get it. But photons still, man, come on. Anyway, right, so the plan is to replace the fuel inside the photon torpedoes and launch a barrage of them at the wormhole. They're going to put the fuel, they're going to put in a lot of antimatter fuel into their antimatter torpedoes in a set, which they are anyway, photon torpedoes, but they are, the whole thing, the casing is going to be antimatter inside. That's the gist I got of it. And they fire the aperture, which does keep it opened and make it bigger as well, and then literally the tractor beam can then literally pull them all the way through, which is pretty cool. And and then the wormhole literally collapses just as they get through. Do you know what would have been cool, Gray? More accurate if it collapsed at the end and cut off half the nacelles.
That's what I.
Because the timing's too perfect. I'm sorry.
It's so funny you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking at the same time. I'm sitting there going, now they need to show it closing and have it do something.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, that it would have been great if they just nipped off the last part of the cells, you know, right on the back. Just kind of took them out. I would have done it. It would have looked cool and it would have made sense, but they didn't do it.
It would have looked
I think
epic.
maybe they're afraid of ruining or messing up the Enterprise, but then again, it wasn't really the Enterprise per se, so they could have nipped it. What the heck?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I thought just like you. I was waiting for it to happen. I'm sitting there going, are they going to do it? Are they going to like do it? Maybe, no, yes.
No, they didn't. It kind of. I think what happened was it closed just as they left. The Enterprise left, and I thought, okay, that's it over. But then it kind of Bajoran wormhole open again quickly, and then collapses and dissolved. I thought that was pretty cool, that part. And they saved, and then there's a cool shot above of Discovery and Enterprise, almost like the end of season 1. Was it end of season 1? Yeah. When Enterprise comes in as well. I thought that was really, really smart. Like to see that little scene. So they made it out just in time. I thought, I'll be honest, you agree, I thought they executed that plan a bit too quickly, but. And you're saying, obviously, you know, we've got to give them some slack. 32nd century tech, which makes sense. But they also had... Well, there you go. But they had a great emphasis to do it. They were being bribed with booze. So maybe... But I'm talking about on Discovery. Obviously, I'm talking about on the Enterprise. The guys had a bribe on Discovery to come up with a plan. But I thought... the guys on at Burnham and Book pulled that off really quickly. But it's amazing how quickly you can think when you're about to die in 8 minutes, which is about 8 hours in Star Trek time. So
of course.
There was. Do you remember the little? Do you remember the another throwaway line when they're about to? They're not really setting a course as such because they're getting tractored through the Enterprise. But when Book turns round and he says to her, like, "Hit it," and she's like, "It feels a little bit weird. Let's just fly instead." Because "hit it" was the iconic line that Pike always used to say. I like that. That's respect.
She knew that too. So
don't steal someone's line, Gray. Don't steal it. Come up with your own.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
"Hit it" is a brilliant saying. "Let's just fly" is another brilliant saying. I prefer "hit it" or "engage." They're the best ones. And as we know, Kirk didn't really. He said different things, didn't he? He didn't have his catchphrase per se, did he? He just said different things. Engage, go, whatever. It changed. So it was a nice kind of. It was a nice little scene, but it kind of ends a bit meh. I mean, we see a little cool bit in their equivalent of 10 Forward, where they're chilling out and they see Linus, the big alien dude guy, playing piano. Talented guy, very nice. And then a kind of random scene at the end between Doc Colburn and Tilly, because earlier on in sickbay, you know, Colburn, I think Dr. Colburn was trying to get something off his chest, but they were too busy. And I don't fully really know what was going on with the Doctor. It just seemed like that was a pointless plot C thing going on, Gray. Did you get that? He's having a spiritual crisis.
Yeah, I don't think they really needed to bring that into it. They could have probably brought it into on a different episode, and probably showed that he was really having trouble with it instead of just the quick thing. But be that as it may, they introduced it. So apparently, because of everything that's happened to him, because he's died and come back to life, and then spent centuries,
he's done a Spock.
Seconds with the Trill, he's like totally like, man, I'm like on a trip. So he's like, you know, I don't know what to do.
Gray, this happened ages ago. He had to remember the season after he came back. It was like he came back from the dead. He had this weird situation. Like he felt as if he was lucky to be alive, and he couldn't handle it, and he wasn't close to his partner anymore because I can't believe I'm alive again. They've already done this, man. I just thought it was a bit meh the ending, you know.
He's having like a relapse, which is
It's
we don't want to know
possible.
about the relapse.
That's possible.
Just move on.
That's
Sure it is, but we don't want to hear it. Just move on. It's like,
But the thing is, he's a doctor and counselor rolled into one, which, if you ask me, should be the way it should be in every ship, because we know the doctor is brought on board ships many times and has to do double duty. Look at, I was recording some clips for the channel going out later this week of, I'll give you a little sneak preview of an episode from Deep Space Nine, Season 5, called For the Uniform, where, if you remember that one, where Sisko is after the Maquis leader, and you see in the background of Defiant, the Doctor is on, like, Bashir, he's on a console, he's, like, giving tactical information to to Sisko, and I'm like, you're a doctor, man! But they're doing double duty because they're not just waiting for people to die or be treated, like, they have to do something else as well. And the perfect ultimate example of this is the most badass moment a Doctor has ever done in the whole of Star Trek, and that's over and above Bones, is going to be Beverly Crusher absolutely ripping the arse out of a Borg cube. I mean, I'm sorry, that's impressive. And she says it's been a long 20 years. It's the look, they all turn around, they're just
you learn something after 25 years.
Like the whole bridge crew are just like this. She's like, stop, it's been a long 20 years, man, leave me. Okay.
Did you see the cut scene that they never put into?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I sent it to the Slack.
Yeah, with Deanna Troi. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I could see why they cut it. It wasn't really that necessary, but it was.
I wholeheartedly disagree. Listen, this is a good reason to go to the Discord we're on, which we'll talk about then, because it's in the Trekway the Star Trek chat section that we have on the Discord, and it's the scene where sees episode 10, the last episode of Picard season 3, where Counselor Troi just goes up to the con and literally sits down, and Geordie's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going to fly the ship, man. Someone has to. And he's like, oh no, you're not. The last 2 times you flew the ship, you crashed it. And she's like, third time's the charm. That was brilliant. They cut that out, man. What? Come on, it's funny. Leave it in. Well, I want to remember.
I liked it.
I want to remember her crashing it once,
because they already had a good scene with Crusher, so they didn't want to double up.
When did she crash it? She crashed it to kill the ship off permanently, but I don't remember the time before that she crashed it. When was that?
In the movie, when it crashed, I think she was at the helm.
No, that was the last time when it was off. But he said, Jordan, you've crashed it twice before. I only remember once.
Yeah, so I don't remember both times that she did this.
She must have done it.
With another craft.
Did she do it with Enterprise E when it smashed into Shinzon's ship, the Scimitar? Maybe. I don't think she did. Anyway, right. So just
I don't think so.
Mr. Gray, what score did you give this out of 10, and why?
I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Kind of like I had mentioned before, I felt that the writing was better in the show, markedly better than some of the stuff I've been watching.
Yeah.
I also felt that it, like I mentioned before, that when you feel like you're more involved and you feel like you care about what's going to happen, et cetera, then you know you've done your job. And for the most part, except for maybe a little here and there, I did feel like that. And so I knew that the episode was something that was better and more special. Yeah. Thank goodness. So, like I said, I'm hoping that the remaining 5 episodes or so are done more like that, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And again, if it is, it's going to be that too little, too late kind of thing because they're on the way out. But that's okay. I'd rather have some good episodes. So we'll see.
Fair enough. I like how you say thankfully, because it almost feels like he was going to give it 8, but he gave it that 8.5 because he's like, thank God I've got a really good episode of Discovery now. It deserves a bonus half a point. I actually was 8 out of 10 originally, but I saw Gray's score, and sometimes when you read through the notes and stuff again, you change your opinion because it was even better than I first thought. So, I'm with Gray as well. I'm an 8.5 out of 10. Just loved the episode. It was good backstory, not backstory for the sake of backstory, Gray. It made sense. It fitted in. It wasn't boring. It gave us character development, which we get nowhere near enough of in Discovery. the I can't remember the bridge crew, Discovery bridge crew officer that came up with the plan. I'm pretty sure it was the Asian fella. I never remember their names because they don't get enough backstory. It's that's not my fault. That's the writers not making us fall in love with these other fringe bridge crew characters. So more backstory. Love that. Although the ending was a bit crap, a bit meh, and there was a couple of things that didn't make sense, like why is L'ak able to be out of his suit and all that. So, that's what. If it would have probably been a 9.5 out of 10 if they'd fixed those things, I would say. But hey, really the best episode of the season so far, Gray, I think, for me anyway. For you as well, judging by the score. But yeah, listen, we'll wrap up there. We are back on Sunday, about 8 p.m. BST. We're going to be playing. It'll be part 4 of Star Trek Resurgence playthrough. So I don't know how many episodes there'll be, but we'll be playing that for an hour or two. And of course, if you want to join the Discord, we're on our friends' Discord, Extreme Gaming Podcast, and the information below. The reason I suggest go there is because we have a Star Trek Trekway section in there where we can talk all things Star Trek. And if you come in to the Discord via here, this video, say hi, say how you found us, and we'll say hi back. And that podcast that Discord is a mixture of things. Trekway's in there, Gray's podcast is in there, which is called Gray's Green Room. That's entertainment related, all the latest cool things happening in Hollywood, TV shows, movies, more sci-fi related stuff. We cover that, and there's an episode not that long out as well. He's available on the YouTubes and wherever you listen to your audio podcast platforms. And on Thursdays we do a gaming podcast as well. So if you like Star Trek, there's every chance you want to join us on Twitch on Thursday 9 p.m. BST to see that. But just come into Discord, say hi anyway, and we will see you on Sunday evening at my time. Don't forget,
look for more shorts that Trev keeps putting together.
Yes, thank you to everyone that's been liking them. I'm enjoying doing them. And there'll be some cool ones out that are great. Done a lot of interviews with do not judge the man's face. He done a lot of good stuff in the 90s, interviewing some of the OG Enterprise crew and one or two folk from the Enterprise D crew as well, namely Jonathan Frakes. And we've got some cool interviews there that we're going to do shorts and maybe discuss on as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Until the next episode, Mr. Gray, do your thing, please, mate.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.